8. John. Every child is special, but Mavriella is in a league of her own. Imagine being 6 years old and knowing for certain what happens after death, where we go, and if a greater being awaits to judge us. Before she was 2, Mavry was an ordinary happy girl. She didn't understand why her mother's face was covered in bruises, from faded green ones to purple welts. Never heard Heather cry herself to sleep. All she knew was that her mother loved and protected her every day. Mavry's father, John, was letting his personal demons win over the man Heather fell in love with back in high school. Alcohol had become his terrible vice that was tearing their family apart, piece by piece. Heather blamed the booze, not him. She had convinced herself that the disease could be cured with patience. But sadly, as long as an alcoholic believes drowning out the past is the best way to manage living in the present, you're just wasting time. John was sitting in his worn-out recliner, drinking his 5th beer on Super Bowl Sunday. Empty cans piled by his feet with barbecue crumbs smashed into the carpet. His favorite football team is playing on the flat screen.
Come on, how
He
did
was
you
so
miss that, you
engrossed in
stupid
his
idiot?
game, he didn't notice Heather carrying their child into the bathroom. Mavry's diaper is removed before being lowered into the pre-made bubble bath. She kicks from excitement and laughs whenever the ticklish washcloth is used to wipe her chubby rolls. Again, her innocent mind was blissfully unaware of why her mother's arm was covered in fingerprint marks. Mavry was her silver lining in a dark relationship.
Heather!
John shouts during a commercial break. His angry tone made a toy slip out of her hand and bounce off the wall.
What?
She yelled back at him, frustrated with his rudeness.
Heather!
He screamed again, unable to hear her over the TV.
You better not be ignoring me.
Heather marches into the living room.
What?
He raises his empty beer can for her to throw away.
Ugh. I need another beer.
Get it yourself. She was getting tired of the blatant inconsideration. She had other people to tend to that didn't bully her. If he had said please or spoke with some kindness, her response may have been different. She starts to walk away when John springs up from his chair, grabs her by the hair. Her size 4 body is shoved face forward into the wall. The former quarterback pins Heather until her smashed breasts sting from the pressure. He spits when speaking into her ear.
You think you have the right to talk to me like that? Please stop.
Answer my question first.
No.
She squeals with bloody snot dripping over her lips. He steps back, letting her body drop to the floor in a defensive position. She knew from experience he likes to have the last word. Her dog is outside barking, pulling on her leash, wanting to break free and protect them.
Why do you make me do this?
He screamed after kicking her in the hip.
Someone needs to shut that damn dog up before I get a baseball bat to it.
It was too painful and scary for her to stand right back up, not with him still hovering over her. In that very moment of fear, an unsupervised Mavry reaches for her rubber ducky. A soapy current seeps under her bottom, lifting her body just a couple of centimeters and flips her backward. Baby Mavry sank into the warm, murky water like a coin being tossed into a wishing well. Poppy's barking faded in the background, similar to a car driving away on wet pavement. Only the mermaid music of water thrashing from side to side played. She blinked one last time before the bubbles that resembled puffy storm clouds floated high above went dark. John grabbed himself another beer, displaying no remorse. In his mind, Heather deserved every beating for trapping him with an unwanted pregnancy and forcing him to drop out of college. He didn't blame the horrible grades that were going to cost him his scholarship, not the parties that made him sleep in on classes, and definitely not the drinking that made him worthless on the football field. Of course not. John Clarkson, a small-town superstar, could never admit not being able to hack fraternity freedom. Placing the blame on Heather allowed him to be seen as the victim. Heather looks over at the bathtub and doesn't see Mavry. She jumps up off the floor. "Mavry!" Heather pulls her lifeless body out of the water. How long she'd been under was unknown. She cradled Mavriella's head while her limbs dangled down with blue fingers and toes. John peeked in, wondering what kind of mess his daughter made with toilet paper and makeup again. He wasn't expecting to find her dead. Heather rubs Mavry hard on her upper back.
Come on, baby. Come on. Come on, baby.
What did you do?
You left her alone in the bathtub?
Heather tried to ignore his rant and flipped the baby over to perform CPR.
Call 911.
John held his flip phone, but hesitant to dial. He realized that if the police came, they would discover a battered wife and a dead infant. His life would be over. It wouldn't matter who left the baby unattended. Mavry's death would be labeled as a casualty of domestic violence. His co-workers, friends, and family would all learn the truth and see him as a monster. He began smacking the refrigerator door, praying for a miracle. Luckily for him, Mavry was revived by her mother's certified skills. Heather carries her into the kitchen, wrapped in a dry towel. John expressed relief and reached out his arm, wanting to hold his baby girl. Heather swings away from him.
Don't you dare. I'm not the one who almost killed her.
John placed the blame solely on her, refusing to admit any form of fault. Heather glared at him with her swollen eyes, tear-covered cheeks, and the physical marks he left on her.
Get out. Watch your tone,
John threatened out of habit. Heather took the initiative to retrieve her own cell phone off the counter and speed dialed the police. That was enough to get him to stand down.
Fine, but remember, you did this.
Who was he trying to convince? Her or him?
Get out!
Heather screamed at him while the phone was ringing. The waiting for her husband to become a better man was over. The urge to hit her for being disrespectful was itching at his core. He forged a tight fist and imagined himself breaking her jaw so the hospital would have to wire it shut. She was ready for him to prove his malicious dominance with the police listening. Mavriella in her arms watching. John raised his fist to intimidate her into hanging up, to see her flinch at his knuckles. But she stood her ground.
I'd like to report an assault.
John walked out of the house to avoid being questioned. Heather cleaned up her husband's mess. His beer cans, the snacks left in the living room, and everything else he broke. She stayed up all night packing his belongings. By dawn, all that remained of him was a stack of garbage bags and miscellaneous boxes outside. It was a new beginning for the girls. Unfortunately, John continued to binge drink at a local sports bar after leaving Heather. He even tried to persuade a homely waitress into a one-night stand for somewhere to sleep. The heavy tipping didn't change her mind. He reeked of trouble, not the sexy bad boy kind. More like a dud in the sheets who'll end up clogging your toilet with his shit. John finished the game with fellow fans and a large tray of hot buffalo wings drenched in blue cheese dressing. His team won, by the way, if it matters. He shuffles to the car, ready to sweet-talk his way back into the house. His weak wife always takes him back, and was confident he could persuade her to drop the charges with cheap flowers and make-up sex. John made it 5 blocks down the road when a ghost in the passenger seat caught his attention. The translucent old woman is his mother, who's been dead for years.
Mom?
He jerks the steering wheel. You are such a disappointment. She shakes her head. It happened so fast. A combination of quick reactions that overlapped into turmoil. Slamming his foot down at the last minute, locking the tires and causing them to squeal against the brakes under a red traffic light. His beige sedan skids, hitting the back of someone else's vehicle, then ricochets straight into a metal pole. Windshield glass shatters in every direction. His skull cracks on impact, splashing his brain matter over the dash. John's ability to see ghosts occurred once and was used against him. Throughout his life, he had heard voices and believed he suffered from a mental illness. Drinking silenced those pleas to send messages to their loved ones. An uncaged, violent outburst. His curse, which some would refer to as a gift, is the only thing he ever passed down to his daughter. Mavry woke in her crib to her first ghost. John's mother, soaring over her in circles, beholding her with such love. The baby reaches up to the bright figure. Her little fingers were able to feel its energy. Nothing more.
He's never going to hurt you again,
Mavriella. Mavry could not yet understand her reassurance, but sensed their close connection, a blood tie that binds them in the afterlife. John's mother lingers to educate the child about the veil that divides the living and the dead, teaching her to embrace her gift and not find ways to tune out ghosts with vices. Mavry grows to become the bridge between two worlds, but her parental grandmother is not the lady in white.